I remember it was one year we lost to a team in the regular season that we were pissed. Let me say it that way, that we lost to them. We had no business losing to them. We had a bad night. But they talking trash in the hotel to us. We gonna get y'all again and da 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 da. Cool, no problem. Guess what? What's up? How you doing? Welcome back to A Moment in Time with yours truly, Aaron Thompson. I'm super excited that you're with me. I want to remember, did you bring somebody with you? Did you tell 3 people? Are you letting the big fella work for you? All right. So we've been talking about being clear on our destination and heading in the direction of the destination. Because remember, clarity breeds confidence, and we want to have answers to 3 questions. Who are we? Where are we in our lives? And ultimately where we want to go. So remember, this is when I let you into my business a little bit, so I need you to be gentle. All right. So here's what I want you to give a couple stories from a couple of different perspectives. Because remember, the only step that matters is the next step that you take. And when you can steward the next step as if it's the only step, you grow along the journey, and you will ultimately, by racking a bunch of those up together, you will ultimately arrive with the insight that you need, the wisdom, the maturity for you to be able to steward the results, the goal, the dream that only resided here. You'll be able to steward it and then teach others. All right. So one of the things that I learned when I played in college is this idea during the NCAA tournament of survive and advance, right? Now, playing at Valparaiso University, what we were considered is what they call a mid-major university. And so mid-major universities at the time in the 90s, you were really only getting one of those teams into the NCAA tournament because you had to win what they call your conference tournament, all right? And so that was where you got what they call an automatic bid. So it didn't matter if you were undefeated in the regular season. If you did not win that conference tournament, you can forget about going to the NCAA tournament. But on the other side, you could stink during the regular season, and if you won the conference tournament, you were going to the big dance. That's what they called it. And so I was fortunate enough because we as teammates, through our coaches, throughout my time there, we were able to basically dismiss everything we did in the past and lock in to the next step. Because guess what? It didn't matter if we were the best team. It didn't matter if we had the best record. If in the conference tournament, we did not win the next game to lead us to the next game that will lead us to the championship for us to be in the big dance, it didn't matter. You could have 30 wins, but if you didn't do what you're supposed to do in the conference tournament, you're going to be at home watching it on TV like everybody else. So that's where I learned this idea of stewarding the next step as if it's the only step, because it's the only step in the moment that matters. Because if you don't take care of that one, you never get to the next one. That's what I want to drill in. There is practical application here, because I remember it was one year we lost to a team in the regular season that we were pissed. Let me say it that way, that we lost to them. We had no business losing to them. We had a bad night. But they talking trash in the hotel to us. We gonna get y'all again and da 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 da. Cool, no problem. Guess what? We understood our goals were bigger than playing them, but if we saw them along the way, we were kicking their teeth in. And guess what? We won our game like we were supposed to, the next step. And guess what? They lost in the first round. Why? Because they were so distracted about getting to the destination of playing us to prove that it wasn't a fluke, that they didn't take care of what was in front of them. And that's the issue with some of us right now. We are not taking care of what's in front of us. See, what's in front of us is the most important thing, whether it's your kids, whether it's the job that you have, whether it's the assignment at your church, whether it's your neighborhood, whatever it is that currently in this moment It is the most important thing. The scriptures teach, Jesus says that why worry about tomorrow, for today has enough troubles of its own. Today has enough troubles of its own. So why are we worried about the next step, as opposed to just doing what we need to do right now? To be present here in this current moment. That's all you need to do, is be present in this current moment. So you can do what? Survive and advance. As you do that along the way, you can be like we were in college. End up with our destination and goal being in the NCAA tournament. Okay? So now I take this lesson from college, and there was an opportunity to work for this particular company that had this multiple rounds of interviews. I think it might have been like 5 interviews. It was crazy. But guess what? In my mind, nothing else mattered about how many steps were in the interview process. I had to do what? Survive and advance, take the next step as if it was the only step. That's all I had to do. Because that was the only step that mattered, because if I didn't do that one, I didn't get to the next step. And guess what? I took that step, got it. I knew some people that were interviewing for the same job. They didn't steward the moment. They were looking too far ahead. I survived in advance. They went home, right? And so we get all the way to the end to have the opportunity to talk to the big decision makers. And this is going to be this moment. And guess what ultimately happened? They went with somebody else. Now, why do I tell you that story? Because just because you're headed in the direction, which might be a big mile marker or a big exit ramp, if we're using the highway to kind of think through it, it still is take the next step to lead to the next step that ultimately leads you to the next step. And see, we don't understand until we start heading in the direction whether this is an exit ramp or whether this is our destination when we're headed towards our goals and dreams. Because remember, the things that are in here, we've never lived in. The things that we feel in our spirit, we've never experienced. So we don't know if this is an off-ramp or if this is the place to our destination. And a lot of times we don't want to get started because we can't recognize it, because we're going from the familiar to the unfamiliar. And here's what I learned through that interview process. I learned my story. I learned better how to be able to tell it. I got key feedback. So then the next time I interviewed, I got that job. So guess what? Here's what I found out. Realize, hindsight being 2020, looking back on it, is what was the most important thing? Was the journey through the process that allowed for me to be where I was supposed to arrive. Yeah, that interview process, that was an off-ramp. That was temporary. But the journey of getting to that off-ramp allowed for me to be better, because I still was headed in the direction, in the path that I believed that I was on. Don't get distracted because you think the off-ramp is where your destination is. Because remember, if we're clear on our destination, then when we take the next step as if it's the only step in that direction, it builds our confidence. And guess what? The next step builds our confidence. And though I did not get that job, though I didn't get a chance to join that company, I can tell you my confidence was sky high. Because going through those 5 rounds of interviews, I realized at the end of it, I knew my story so well. I was very clear on who I was. I was very clear on what I could contribute to the organization, and them making a different decision was their loss, not mine. Because I had told my story so much, I understood my highs and my lows and my ability to contribute at a high level to this organization and what I brought to the table so much that my confidence was so high, not in an arrogant space, but I understood who I was, that at the end of it, I said, you guys made a bad decision. But it ultimately was a great decision for me, because when I look back on it, it was just an off-ramp. It wasn't the destination. It was temporary, because the next one I got. And that's all I want us to think through. We have to be willing to survive in advance in the vernacular of the NCAA story that I told you earlier, so we can ultimately position ourselves to win. And winning means we're going to get our goal. We're going to take what's residing in here and allow for it to be the life that we ultimately live. But don't be so concerned on what you think looks like winning, and don't start on the journey, because as you take one step, and as you take the next step, and as you take the next step, remember, clarity breeds confidence. And that's what happened to me. Though I did not get that job, I was very clear on who I was. My confidence could have never been higher than it ever was because I knew my story. I was taking steps in the direction to ultimately be where I knew I was supposed to be because my mind wouldn't let me rest. My spirit wouldn't let me rest. So I had to get moving in a direction, and that was just an off-ramp or a bump along the way. Here's what I need you to do for me. Hey, I need you to be excited. I need you to be excited about the journey you're taking, and do me a favor. Take this and share this with 3 people. Let me do the work for you. You know somebody that needs to just not worry so much about the destination, but get moving in the direction and take the next step. Let the big fella work for you. All right. But here's what I want you to do. I want you in the comments. Yep. If you didn't do it before, I want you in the comments, DMs, whatever. I want you to let me know what's the next step. What if you clear on that destination? What's the next step that you're heading into the right direction? And if you're having a problem trying to figure all that stuff out, in the comments, click on the link, go to the website, click on book now, and let's connect so I can help you find some answers to those questions that breeds the confidence for you to head in the right direction, for you to have sustainable success, to take what's in here and for it to ultimately live out here to inspire those around you. I appreciate you so much. Thank you for stopping by a moment in time. And I want you to remember this. Just because you started out on this journey to get better doesn't mean that you weren't already good. Until next time, I'll see you then.